exhibit celebrates Genentech's position as the pivotal foundation of the biotech industry. We've managed to discover medicines that treat illnesses that prior to the biotech industry were just intractable.
And anything that changes the face of the human experience should be celebrated by the Smithsonian.
If you're going to be a part of the future of healthcare, whether it's biotech, pharma, the future is going to be the integration of all these technologies.
So talking to people outside of your areas of expertise is often really, really important to catalyze that spark of an idea. And if the person believed in a certain idea, and if you're going to make a real breakthrough, expect that everybody tell you you're out of your mind.
Drive, ambition, innovation, all of these things can help, but again, the main thing is if you're excited about it.
I've never been at Genentech a single day that I didn't learn something or been able to show somebody something they didn't know.
I think companies like Genentech, who thought they had something little but aimed really big, really has made a difference in the world.
Genentech is regularly recognized as a preeminent leader in the biotechnology industry. They also have received recognition and awards for their overall performance as a company, their dynamic workplace culture, their contributions to the community, and their patient advocacy. Here are some of their most recent achievements. But in this insider-exclusive Investigative Network TV special, our news team examines whether Genentech's wonderfully cultivated public image of the best companies to work for in America by Fortune magazine and other prestigious awards from Working Mother, Science Magazine, Computer World, and others equally applies to their employees who have become sick, injured, or disabled on the job. For example, did Genentech walk its own talk when it comes to the real-life treatment of one of its own former outstanding employee managers, Rob Bennett? In August of 2010, Rob was an up-and-coming star in the pharmaceutical industry, and he thought that signing on with Genentech would be the next big step in his career. Unfortunately, that was not to be the case. This was not due to lack of performance on Rob's part. Rather, he became the victim of harassment after suffering severe medical issues. Here's Rob to tell his own story.
So I started with Genentech in 2010. I accepted the job. I was excited to go. Immediately, the interview process was a little aggressive, like they were really trying to get me, and I took it as, a compliment. After I came on board, I saw immediately that there was some abrasive, attitude between me and Russell Marino. A year later, in 2011, I was diagnosed with a hip arthroscopy, which is a bone spur on the hip, and mine had torn the cartilage. So now I'm at a point, am I going to walk again? The surgery was performed. The abrasive attitude and the condescending remarks are just cutting me off during meetings when they're asking me questions, but people are coming to me. That's what they hired me for. I didn't understand. What do you want from me? It was so bad that I had the surgery on Friday and worked till 12 o'clock, went into the surgery, and was back at work on that Monday morning. I was in such pain and fever and so out of it that my counterparts lobbied for me, should we let him go home? And then finally they did. Now you're starting to degrade your recovery time, and your hip's getting worse. And now I'm just really worried. Am I going to lose my job, or am I going to be able to walk? What's going to happen? It kept going. It got worse. Really calling me hop along because I had a limp. Well, I wouldn't have had a limp if I'd had this recovery time. No compassion, just suck it up. I remember Dan McCurren telling me to suck it up. And then just constant, banter from Russell, not being married and things like that, not drinking at some of our events. I don't drink at company parties. He would drink a whole bottle, and I'd be ridiculed for that. you just laugh. You just have to laugh about it, because if you get mad, you're going to get retaliated and more. So HR calls me and tells me that there's been several reports from different people that you've been harassed by your managers. And I said, I don't want to be involved in this. I said, just no, I don't know. And they said, well, other people have reported it, so it's more than one. I can't say they're lying, but I know what happens. I've been in management in biopharma and pharmaceuticals. You report, go to HR, even if you're one being harassed, you're done. Your career's over. And when I complied, the retaliation started immediately, going behind my back and taking me off committees that would grow my career. Finally, I found out I got fired, but it was 8 months after the date. And the only reason I knew it was because I had to refinance my house. My mortgage lender called me and said, Rob, you know this on Experian that you've been fired? I said, what are you talking about, I've been fired? I'm getting, my insurance is still good and everything. I couldn't have been fired. Well, I went on the site and they had merged. I don't know what happened, but I'm fired and nobody was ever notified me. What I want now from Genentech is I want to work. But at this point, I've got to be made whole. Everybody knows me in this business. I did one-on-one jobs where everyone knew me across the board. Everybody knows me, and they know my spirit and know my drive. But there's always that question in the back of their mind: what happened? And I haven't been able to get a job since.
In this insider-exclusive Investigative Network TV special, our news team visits with Rob's lawyers Jason Mitchell and Aubrey Villines and his therapist, Dr. June Cooley. In Genentech Expose, Rob Bennett's story. This case has social and legal implications for all employees in America because there is an increasing tendency of disability insurance plans to encompass so many exclusions and to apply those exclusions so broadly such that the policies are essentially rendered meaningless. Employees work hard for the benefits that have come along with their jobs. And when the worst happens and they become disabled, the employer should be held accountable for paying those benefits. Especially companies like Genentech, who have consistently been selected by Fortune magazine as the 100 best companies to work for. Moreover, companies like Genentech, who carefully craft a public image of a socially responsible organization working for the benefit of humankind, cannot be allowed to engage in bad faith dealings when it comes to their own employees' benefits. Jason Mitchell and Aubrey Villines have earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as two of the finest trial lawyers because they are driven to fight for people who have been harmed by the willful or negligent actions of others. Their goals not only to get justice for their clients, but to ensure that employers are held responsible for the fair, just, and safe treatment of all their employees. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Atlanta, Georgia. It is my great pleasure to introduce Jason Mitchell and Aubrey Villines. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
You're here today representing a great guy by the name of Rob Bennett. Okay, tell our audience a little bit about who Rob is.
Rob is probably, well, there's sort of two Robs. There's the Rob today, and there's the Rob before all of these events happened. Okay. And I like to think about Rob as who he was, which is one of the most vibrant, strong, charismatic people you ever would have met.
Right.
He was always a tough guy. He survived cancer whenever he was young. did inordinate amount of charity work, had friends everywhere. Everybody loved him, and he was a go-getter, and he had a great future. Today, it's not so much. As you know, Rob has fallen on some very hard times.
Yeah, let's so our audience knows the timetable here. He was a pharmaceutical representative,
Yes.
right? Sales, marketing representative, right? He got an opportunity to go to work for Genentech, correct?
Yes.
I think it was 2010, right? And everything was great. Yes. What happened?
Well, to put it bluntly, Rob got sick. He had a condition with his hip that, from my understanding, was simply a genetic condition. It was something that just happened, and
Which required him to have surgery. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that amazed me about this, he had to have an operation. Everybody, when they need medical help, they go get it, right?
Right.
Was that his company required his supervisor, his immediate supervisor, and his immediate supervisor's name was
Dan McCurren.
He required him to come back to work within, what,
3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
So, my dad had a hip operation, a hip replacement, and he was out like for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something.
And that would be
What's-
short. Normally it's even longer than that.
So how can anybody expect that someone will be back in 3 days?
Well, and just so that it's clear, this hip operation, where he was as far as the scale of seriousness, if he hadn't gotten this hip operation, the next step was hip replacement.
Yeah.
And this was edging towards that level of seriousness,
Right.
the operation he had. And his doctors told him, they said, not only do you have to recover for several months, but you have to be essentially immobilized.
Yeah.
So the doctors are putting him on a level of, we don't want you to walk around.
Right,
And
but there are medical reports.
Yeah.
He files them with the company, correct?
Right. Lots of
And
documentation.
but he still comes back to work, right? He still comes back to
He
work.
was required. It was even more than expect. He was basically required to come back to work.
When you say required, was the ultimatum given to him? You don't come back to work, we're going to fire you?
I can't say it was given in so many exact words, but it was understood that you have to come back to work. We
Right.
expect you. We require you to come back to work.
Now, when a manager, his name again was what?
Dan McCurren.
When a manager requires somebody to come back to work, when the doctor says you can't come back to work, what laws does that violate?
The ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act.
Okay. All right. So Rob came back to work. What happened?
Well, he did his best. I mean, he genuinely tried to do his job.
Which involved what? Traveling?
Well, there's a lot of travel
Yeah.
involved. And he was a very, as a pharmaceutical rep, this wasn't just going into doctors' offices, things like that. I mean, this was a meeting with people all over the country, all over the world, dealing with new products, instructing people on how to get out there and talk. So it was a very active job. It was something that required a person to fly in very long distances. He tried. He really did his best.
Now, when you say he tried, because he didn't spend enough time in recovery, he was experiencing a lot of pain, right?
A lot of aggravation.
A lot of pain. And he brought this to the attention of his boss, correct?
Yes.
And what did the boss say?
Not in so many words, but essentially get over it.
Yeah. I understand that his boss and his boss's supervisor also made kind of snide remarks about him not being, the man that he said he was going to be or whatever. What exactly
I
was
think they were not only unsympathetic, but they actually subjected him to ridicule.
Yeah.
They felt that he would, to use the term, a wimp for not going forward. I'm sure they used exact words, but they used words that implied that you're not really a man. You can get this job done.
Right.
You can do this. You're just faking it.
So he had the operation in 2011. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And he lasted with the company for about another year and a half, correct?
Ballpark, yeah.
Okay. During that time, he was continually harassed by his bosses.
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes,
Just
sir.
two of them, mainly,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
He was being recommended for a higher position at the company, correct?
Considered, yes.
Yeah.
Being considered.
Well, he
What
had
happened there?
he had effectively had that position.
Yeah.
The internal processes had taken place. The right people had already
And
said
that that job would have paid a lot more money, more responsibility.
A lot more
Yes, sir.
responsibility.
It's where he wanted to be, where he
Yeah.
wanted to go.
It was bringing a new drug to market.
Okay, so what happened after that?
Well, when he got to the point where he became involved in HR actually having conversations with him about what was going on.
They contacted him, I understand.
They did. You know, Rob knew that at a certain point he was going to have to do something.
Yeah.
But he was terrified because he
He
needed
might
his
lose
job.
his job.
Oh, he was certain he was going to lose
Yeah,
his
because
job.
that's what companies do. Even though it violates the law, they retaliate,
Right.
don't they? Yeah. And they fire people.
Right.
And effectively, what did HR do about this, by the way?
Well, from what we know, certain people had witnessed the harassment.
Yeah.
And those people called HR. Now, HR conducted what they called an investigation, and of course, they, at the end of the day, HR said there's nothing here, there's nothing to it, which isn't that surprising.
Right. Because it's the fox guarding the hen house.
It's an internal thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
So he was effectively terminated, correct?
yes.
Eventually, right?
Yeah.
On what grounds? Supposedly.
Good question.
Yeah.
We're
Now,
not,
this
we're not
case-
really sure. We're not really sure what grounds he was terminated or exactly when he was terminated.
This case has not gone to trial yet, right?
No, sir.
Correct.
You're still in the discovery stage.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Have you taken depositions of some of these individuals?
They're upcoming.
They're upcoming.
Yeah.
Who will testify that they complained to HR? Who
Well-
will substantiate what he was going through?
That's supported by documentation.
That's supported.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have that. Okay, so with Genentech, I don't know whether you've looked at Fortune 500 listings. I looked at the other day, they are number 6 in terms of the best place to work for employees, voted by the employees.
Wow.
And we did, and they've alternated, they've been in the top 10 for the last 18 years. I did another show with a medical research doctor who was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and their insurance company, Liberty Mutual, same insurance company here probably, right? Denied them long-term disability, okay, for a lot of different reasons, and the case was settled. One of the things that I've learned about Genentech is that the employees will speak very highly of it, except when you get sick, when you get injured on the job, right, or disabled. And then there's the horse of a different color.
I don't think that's unusual either.
Yeah.
Rob loved his position.
I know.
He loved his future. He felt it was bright. And then suddenly, when he became injured, he suffered humiliation, discrimination, and retaliation.
Now,
I mean, you have to imagine a guy, Rob's a big guy.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to imagine a guy who has a serious hip injury, he's been told to recover.
Yeah.
Being forced
he's an athlete too.
to get into a go-kart.
Yeah.
A go-kart, a little tiny car.
Right. His boss wanted him to get in there.
Yeah.
And called him a wimp if he couldn't do it, right?
Exactly. Rob is one of those folks we've known a few in our life.
Yeah.
Just Mr. America.
Yeah.
Looks good looking, bright, athletic, everything going for him. So this is very difficult for him to take and live through. And he tried to accommodate, but he couldn't. And then they retaliated.
So what are the challenges you have facing you to prove his case and basically make Genentech own up and act responsible?
It's sort of a David versus Goliath situation. I mean, this is one man who is fighting against a huge corporation. I mean, a massive corporation with all the time in the world and all the money in the world.
Yeah.
That is the primary problem.
What are the challenges that Rob faces right now?
Well, his health.
Yeah,
I mean,
his health,
his
His
health.
finances, his
unemployed.
health, his finances. I mean,
disability's not being paid, right?
Yeah.
Okay, none of that.
physically he has deteriorated. Financially he has deteriorated.
Right.
Emotionally he has deteriorated.
Right.
It's had an effect of every phase of his life. He's not the same person, as Jason said earlier, that he was before.
Right. And I understand that he's under the guidance of a therapist, Dr. June Cooley, correct?
That is true.
Is that right?
Yes.
Fortunately, we have them with us today, so let's bring them on right now.
Sounds great. Thank
Excellent.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Rob Bennett and Dr. June Cooley to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today we've talked with your lawyers, previously, and we know the audience knows a little bit about your case, but you are seeing currently Dr. June Cooley for therapy, right?
That's right.
And exactly what is the need for that?
Really just help straighten out my life and to plan on how I'm going to live my life in the future. Anxiety, depression.
Yeah. So you're suffering that right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you don't know where your life's going to be.
Yeah. Because your life prior to this time was a very active life.
Yes.
Vivacious, if you will, out there in the public. When people come to you like Rob, clients come to you like Rob,
Yes.
and what do you advise them to get them through this period of their life?
Sometimes it's support, but Rob came with severe depression.
Yeah.
And so we talked about some of the situation that led to that depression and how he could manage and decrease some of the symptoms.
Okay. And how does a person do that? I mean, he's in a bad place.
Yes.
He was in a good place. He's in a bad place.
Yes.
What advice do you give people so that they can help them get through this? That it's not the end of the world. You can get through it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Okay. And what do they do in the meantime? What advice do you tell them?
Well, in situations like Rob's,
Yeah.
oftentimes I recommend some medication to help with the depression.
Yeah.
And then just actually processing what's going on, providing support, and developing some coping skills.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of questions going back to Genentech when you first went there, and you discovered that you needed a hip operation, correct?
Right.
In normal companies, when you need medical help, you go to the doctor says, oh, I'm going to schedule surgery, and there's a recovery period. Why didn't your boss, is it Dave McCurren? Is that his name?
Dan McCurren.
Dan McCurren. Why didn't your boss allow you the time you needed to recover?
Honestly, I was scared. I mean, I started with his
that's
company.
Not my question.
Yeah.
My question is, if you have whatever kind of
And
operation,
I think he was too.
Pardon me?
He was scared because our boss was Russell.
Okay.
He's the one that.
So in other words, he needed you to do a job. You're not going to be there, so he's scared that his numbers, his performance is going to be.
That's correct.
I see.
And I literally had surgery on Friday, and I'm the only one in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's a very, very, very technical surgery, and they just started perfecting it.
Yeah.
It went back to work the next Monday. I don't remember it, and I actually had
We
my
on
boss.
heavy pain medication or anything like that? No.
Just ice.
So this is 2011. You started the year before 2010, correct?
That's correct.
Just ice, no pain medication.
No, I don't.
Did
don't
they
do pain
offer
medication.
pain medication to you?
Yes.
But you didn't want to take it.
I have an allergy to any kind of pain medication,
Really?
so it makes me feel worse.
Really?
But the ice worked perfectly. But so I was.
You were talking about a topical application of
Yeah, it's called Game Ready, and it really fits over.
like
and
athletes use.
Yeah, yep.
that helped.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
best thing I've used.
But the situation got worse, didn't it?
Yes, I actually that Monday attended a meeting, regional meeting, which my boss drove me to.
Yeah.
And I was in so much pain.
You're
during
talking about
the meeting.
Dan.
Yes, Dan.
Okay, and he's still with the company, right?
As far as I know, both of them are.
Okay.
My counterparts actually asked me to leave. They said, they petitioned
Asked
our
him
boss to
leave
say, hey,
the
let
meeting.
him go home.
Yeah.
Because I don't hardly remember being there. And I was running a fever.
Well, let me ask you something. If he's so concerned about his performance, because he depends on you, and you're not performing because you don't know what the heck's going on,
right?
How are you helping him?
That's a good question. I was performing, and I was getting it done.
Yeah.
It was more of a jealousy.
Yeah.
from Russell Marino.
Yeah. Who was Dan's boss?
Dan's boss.
And Russell's still there?
As far as I know.
Okay. Have you ever had, after this is all said and done, you know, you're no longer with a company, have you ever had any discussions with them or correspondence?
No.
With them? None?
None whatsoever.
Do you ever make a phone call to them?
No.
None. You don't want to talk to them?
No, I was advised not to.
Yeah.
Have talked to HR.
Yeah. So you were let go in 2013.
Correct.
That's 4 years ago.
Correct.
And you've been fighting this battle for the last 4 years.
Correct.
How is your health today?
Well, as you can see, it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, has it gotten better, worse, stayed the same?
The longer it goes, the worse it's gotten.
And you haven't been able to work in the last 4 years?
No.
Is that primarily because of your health?
Primarily because of my health.
Yeah.
But that is because of the stress, undue stress.
Yeah.
And my quality of life.
Okay, let's get back to that, you know, because that's, I think, where you enter the picture about stress.
Oops.
There are certain individuals, AAA personalities, I'm sure Rob is one, where they feel achievement oriented.
Yes.
Okay. When they don't have that opportunity, or when the rug's pulled out from underneath them, what do you say to them to say, okay, I know you want to accomplish something. I know you feel you need to, but you can't. What do you say to them?
Well, with Rob, the depression was so severe that he started to have medical issues related to that.
Which are, other than his hip.
Well,
can you say?
Yeah, my thyroid level dropped. Okay. I mean, I had just multiple problems.
What's going on with the arm?
I detached my tricep. I've gotten in a weakened state. Honestly, just you don't know what's going to happen every day of your life for 4 years.
So you're still under a lot of stress.
Yeah, this detached only because I've weakened so much.
You're under the stress of trying to get justice for yourself.
Correct.
Do the right thing. You're under the stress of financially, because you're not getting any long-term disability, right?
No.
You're also under the stress of you're not who you thought you were or where you would be at this stage in your life, right?
Yes.
Which is not your fault, by the way. You know that, right? So do you see Dr. Cooley on a regular basis?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Has she been helpful for you?
Yes. I don't think I'd made it without it.
Okay, good. One last question. There is a light at the end of the tunnel in all of these cases, generally, correct?
Correct.
How do you get the client there, the patient there? Just by constant therapy?
Constant therapy.
Uh-huh. Does he listen to you?
Sometimes. Not all the time, but most of the time, yes.
Okay. All right. I want to thank you both of you very much for being on the show. Thank you. In this particular case, what are some of the legal issues you have to prove in this case? Like I noticed you wrote something that says whether Mr. Bennett had a disability. Yeah. He had a disability.
Well,
why do you have to prove it?
Yeah, that's what they call a prima facie.
Yeah.
Before you can walk in the door,
right?
You have to show he has a disability. So that says the ADA applies.
Right. And when you talk about the ADA, American Disabilities Act, let's talk about this other clause or phrase a lot of people hear: protected class. What is a protected class when it comes to the ADA?
Well, he has a disability.
Yeah.
I mean,
so a company can't retaliate because you're
right, because he has an issue going on. And that's exactly what they did. They retaliated and they made his life miserable.
Yeah.
They wanted him out and they forced him out.
Yeah. Under the American Disability Act, a company is required to find let's say, another position, if it's available, to keep the person on board, correct?
Well, it's a reasonable accommodation.
Reasonable accommodation. Right. Did they do that here? No.
No.
Could they have done it here?
Yes.
There's a lot of things they could have done.
Yeah.
They refused to work with him in any way.
Do you have any idea? I mean, you've known Rob pretty long. Why this hostility was taking place against him with the manager? Because he had excellent performance reviews, didn't he?
Yeah.
So if you're performing and you're making your boss look good, Why is this taking place?
Maybe as you're going on, you're going to become even better than your boss.
Yeah.
When you meet Rob,
Yeah.
he's the type of person that with many people invokes envy.
Yeah.
Because he is a successful person.
Yes.
He's an achieving person.
Yes.
He looks good. He thinks good. He acts good.
Mhm.
And we all know people like that. He's the type of person that many people are envious of and become jealous.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they said about James Bond. You know, women want him, men want to be him.
I like that phrase.
Yeah, yeah. I wish it was mine. It's sort of like that. It's exactly
Yeah.
what Aubrey was saying.
Mhm.
And this is just my gut,
Yeah.
my read of it. But
As lawyers for him, what do you want to see the right thing done here?
Justice.
And which is what exactly?
He needs to have his health straightened out first,
Yes.
which means finances, means a job.
Yeah.
We want him working. We don't want them blackballing him in the industry.
Right.
You know, we don't want any more retaliation. We want the pain to stop.
Right.
And we want their attack to stop.
Is he being treated right now? He's run up on a lot of medical bills, hasn't he?
A lot of medical
Yeah,
bills.
but he's being treated for pain and that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. He
And
is on
therapy.
treatment. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, one last question. You know, you have a lot of people contact you for, different cases, and you guys are really successful. So how do you determine the cases you take on? Like this case, Rob, why'd you take this case on?
Well, Jason, you want to go first, and then I'll tell you my take on it.
I will be honest with you. With
Yeah.
Rob's case, I met Rob whenever he was involved in the EEOC stage.
Yeah.
Which is something I'm pretty familiar with.
Yeah.
And whenever I heard what was going on in the case, and whenever I heard about how the company was responding to it,
Mhm.
I said, this is ridiculous. I mean, this guy is very clearly somebody who's got health issues. This guy is, bottom line is Rob as a person convinced me.
Yeah.
And then the evidence bore it out.
Yeah, and that's why you take cases on. It's the
Yes.
individual, right?
The individual. Rob is someone you want to help. He's likable. He's a good guy, and he's been done wrong.
Yeah.
And Rob will help you back too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. I want to thank both of you for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And we wish you much success, and we certainly hope this national broadcast of this story really brings out the truth about how Genentech treats people when they're down and out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.